How does a single envelope, delivered at a crowded investor dinner, flip my entire life upside down? What if the man everyone called weak turned out to be the only one who saw the truth behind my so-called success? Can I still say my husband was the villain, when his quiet revenge was nothing but the law, served cold and public? The champagne was still bubbling in my glass when Damien pulled me onto the makeshift stage in our startup's open office. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice boomed over the crowd of investors and employees, "let's hear it for our marketing genius, Legia Vance." The applause was intoxicating. After months of grinding 16-hour days, of pitching to skeptical investors, of proving that a woman could drive revenue in a male-dominated tech space, this moment felt like vindication. The product launch had exceeded every projection, and I was the architect of its success. "Speech! Speech!" someone called from the back. I grabbed the microphone, my heart racing with adrenaline. 6 months ago, they said our user acquisition strategy was too aggressive. They said our demographic targeting was unrealistic. I paused, scanning the crowd of faces illuminated by the warm office lighting. Well, look at those numbers now. More cheers, more validation. This was what I lived for. The recognition, the respect, the proof that I belonged at the top. That's when Damien stepped closer, his hand finding the small of my back. "To the woman who made it all possible," he announced, and before I could process what was happening, his lips were on mine. The kiss lasted maybe 3 seconds. The crowd erupted in cheers and whistles. Someone shouted, "Get a room!" And everyone laughed. It was celebratory, professional, meaningless, just team spirit in the moment of triumph. But when I opened my eyes and looked toward the back of the room, I saw Owen. My husband stood near the refreshment table, holding 2 glasses of champagne he'd obviously brought for us. His face was unreadable, but something in his posture, the slight slump of his shoulders, the way he set down both glasses without drinking, sent a chill through my euphoria. "Owen," I called out, stepping down from the stage as the crowd began to disperse. "Did you see? Did you hear those numbers?" He nodded, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Congratulations, Legia. Really impressive." "Isn't this incredible?" I gestured around the room, where colleagues were still buzzing with excitement. "Damien says if we hit next quarter's targets, I'm looking at a promotion to VP of Marketing. Can you believe it?" "That's great," Owen said, but his voice was flat, distant. I studied his face, feeling my post-celebration high beginning to deflate. "What's wrong? You look like someone died." "Nothing's wrong." He picked up his jacket from a nearby chair. "I should get home to Eva. School night." "Owen, wait." I caught his arm. "Are you upset about something?" He looked at me for a long moment, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Disappointment. Not anger, not jealousy, just quiet disappointment. "I'm not upset," he said carefully. "I'm just tired. It's been a long day." But I knew my husband. We'd been married for 8 years, together for 10. I could read his moods like weather patterns, and this wasn't tiredness. This was something else entirely. "You're being weird about the kiss, aren't you?" The words came out more accusatory than I'd intended. "Owen, it was nothing. It was just celebration, team spirit." "I didn't say anything about any kiss." "You didn't have to. It's written all over your face." I felt my defenses rising, the way they always did when I sensed criticism. This is exactly what I was afraid of. I finally get some recognition, some success, and you can't handle it. "Legia, I never said, you don't have to say it. I can see it." I was getting louder now, and a few lingering colleagues were starting to glance our way. "You're threatened by my success. You're jealous because for once, I'm the one getting applause instead of you with your students and your Teacher of the Year awards." Owen's jaw tightened. "That's not fair, and you know it." "Isn't it? You've been weird ever since I started getting close with the leadership team. Ever since Damien started mentoring me. You act like I'm doing something wrong by having ambition." I've never said you were doing anything wrong. But you think it, I can tell. I was spiraling now, the champagne and adrenaline mixing into something defensive and ugly. You want me to stay small, stay quiet, stay the supportive teacher's wife who bakes cookies for school functions and never outshines her husband. I want to go home, Legia. His voice was quiet, controlled. We can talk about this later. No, let's talk about it now. Let's get this out in the open. I was dimly aware that we were drawing attention, but I didn't care. You're jealous. You're jealous that I have a boss who believes in me, who celebrates my wins, who doesn't make me feel guilty for being successful. Owen stared at me for what felt like an eternity. When he finally spoke, his voice was so quiet I had to lean in to hear him. I've never made you feel guilty for being successful. I've supported every promotion, every late night, every weekend you've worked. I've picked up Eva from school, made dinner, done bedtime stories, all so you could chase your dreams. He paused, and when he continued, there was something broken in his voice. But I've never kissed you in front of a room full of people and called it team spirit. The words hit me like a slap. For a moment, my defensive anger faltered, and I saw the situation through his eyes. His wife, kissed by another man, in public, while he watched from the sidelines. But then I caught sight of Damien across the room, still surrounded by investors, still glowing with the success we'd built together. The moment of doubt passed. You're being ridiculous, I said firmly. It was a celebration. It meant nothing. If you can't handle me working closely with successful people, that's your insecurity to deal with, not mine. Owen picked up his jacket and headed toward the door. I'll see you at home. After he left, I tried to rejoin the celebration, but the energy felt different. Damien approached with a concerned expression. Everything okay? Owen seemed upset. He's fine, I said quickly. Just tired. You know how teachers are. Early bedtimes and all that. Damien laughed, but there was something calculating in his eyes. Well, his loss. This is your night, Legia. Don't let anyone dim your shine. Later, alone in the office bathroom, I pulled out my phone and opened Instagram. The company's social media manager had already posted clips from the celebration. There I was, radiant and confident, accepting congratulations, giving my speech. And there was the kiss, brief, celebratory, innocent. I shared it to my story with the caption, "When your team celebrates big wins, so grateful for amazing leadership and an incredible year ahead. Dajas blessed, Dashrir's success, Dashrir's teamwork." Within minutes, the likes started pouring in. Comments from college friends, former colleagues, distant relatives. You look amazing. So proud of you. Power couple goals with you and your boss. The validation felt like a warm blanket. This was what success looked like. This was what I'd worked for. When I got home, Owen was in the kitchen, cleaning up after Eva's dinner. 2 mugs sat on the counter, his evening tea ritual that we usually shared while debriefing our days. Tea's getting cold, he said without looking up. I sat down and wrapped my hands around the warm mug, suddenly exhausted. Owen, I don't want to fight. We're not fighting. Then what are we doing? He finally looked at me, and I saw that same quiet disappointment from earlier. I don't know, Legia. You tell me. The next morning, Owen was gone before I woke up. His side of the bed was made with military precision, and there was no note, no text, no indication of when he'd left or where he'd gone. Eva was already dressed and eating cereal at the kitchen table. Where's Daddy? I asked, pouring coffee into my favorite mug, the one Owen had bought me last Christmas with "World's Best Marketing Genius" printed on the side. He left early, Eva said, not looking up from her bowl. He said he had things to do. What kind of things? She shrugged with the casual indifference of a 6-year-old. Grown-up things. I checked my phone. No missed calls, no texts. Just dozens of notifications from social media, more likes, more comments on last night's posts. The dopamine hit was immediate and satisfying. At work, the energy was still electric from the previous night's success. Damien called an all-hands meeting, to discuss next quarter's strategy, and I found myself at the center of every conversation. This was what I'd been working toward: respect, influence, a seat at the table. Legia, I want you to lead the investor relations campaign, Damien announced during the meeting. Your presentation skills are exactly what we need to take this to the next level. I felt the familiar rush of validation. I'd be honored. It'll mean some travel, some late nights, some hand-holding with high-maintenance clients. Think you can handle it? Absolutely. Priya Shah, our HR manager, caught my eye from across the conference table. There was something in her expression I couldn't quite read, not disapproval exactly, but concern. After the meeting, I was riding high on possibility when my phone buzzed with a text from Owen. Working late tonight, don't wait up. That was it. No explanation, no warmth, no acknowledgement of the previous night's conversation. I stared at the message, feeling a familiar surge of irritation. This was exactly what I'd been talking about. The passive-aggressive withdrawal, the silent treatment, the way he made me feel guilty for succeeding. I called Marina, my best friend since college, during my lunch break. He's being such a child, I vented, pacing around the small conference room I'd claimed for privacy. I have one moment of professional triumph, and he can't handle it. Men like that are threatened by confident women, Marina said, her voice full of righteous indignation. My ex used to do the same thing, make me feel guilty for being ambitious, for networking, for building relationships that could advance my career. Exactly. And the kiss thing, God, Marina, you should have seen him. Like I'd committed adultery in front of the entire company. It was just a celebratory kiss, right? Team spirit. Of course. Damien's my mentor, my boss. He believes in me in a way Owen never has. Owen wants me to stay small, stay grateful for whatever scraps of success I can get without threatening his ego. You deserve better than that, Legia. You deserve someone who celebrates your wins instead of making you feel bad about them. The validation felt like oxygen. This was what I needed. Someone who understood ambition, who didn't try to dim my light out of their own insecurity. That evening, I came home to find Owen in his study, surrounded by papers and folders. The desk that was usually cluttered with lesson plans and student essays was now organized with mathematical precision. Everything sorted, labeled, filed. "What's all this?" I asked, leaning against the doorframe. "Just organizing," he said without looking up. "Getting things in order." Getting what things in order? Bills, accounts, records. Things got messy over the years. I studied his profile, looking for some crack in his composure. "Owen, are we going to talk about last night?" "What about it?" "About how you acted, about the way you made me feel guilty for celebrating my success." He finally looked at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before, a kind of cold assessment, like he was looking at a stranger. "I didn't make you feel anything, Legia. You felt what you felt. That's not fair. You were obviously upset about the kiss. You made this big dramatic exit, embarrassed me in front of my colleagues. I said congratulations and went home. That's hardly dramatic." "It's not what you said. It's how you said it. The look on your face. The way you just shut down." I was getting frustrated by his calm, measured responses. "You're jealous, Owen. Admit it." "Jealous of what?" "Of Damien. Of my success. Of the fact that I have a boss who actually appreciates my talents instead of trying to hold me back." Owen turned back to his papers. "If that's what you think, then there's nothing to discuss. Don't do that. Don't shut me out and then act like I'm the problem. I'm not shutting you out. I'm giving you space to enjoy your success. That's passive-aggressive bullshit, and you know it." He stood up then, and for a moment, I thought I'd finally gotten through to him. But when he looked at me, his expression was still that same cold assessment. "Legia, I've supported your career for 8 years. I've rearranged my schedule, taken on extra responsibilities with Eva, celebrated every promotion and success you've had. I've never once asked you to choose between your ambition and our family. Then what's the problem? The problem is that you seem to think support means approval of everything you do, regardless of how it affects our marriage or our daughter. How does my success affect Ava? It doesn't. Your success never has, but your relationship with your boss might. The words hung in the air between us like a challenge. I felt my face flush with anger, and something else, guilt maybe, or fear. My relationship with Damien is professional. He's my mentor. Okay, it is. God, Owen, you're so insecure. You can't handle the fact that I have a working relationship with a successful man who isn't you. If you say so. His calm was infuriating. I wanted him to fight back, to give me something to push against, to justify the anger that was building in my chest. You know what? Maybe Marina was right. Maybe you are threatened by confident women. Maybe you want me to stay the supportive teacher's wife who never outshines her husband. Owen gathered his papers and headed for the door. I'm going to check on Eva. We're not done talking. Yes, we are. After he left, I sat in his study, surrounded by the evidence of his methodical organization. Everything was labeled and dated: bank statements, insurance policies, Eva's school records, even our marriage certificate in a clear plastic sleeve. It felt like he was preparing for something, but I couldn't imagine what. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through the comments on last night's posts. More validation, more support, more evidence that I was on the right track. One comment from a former colleague caught my eye. You and your boss make a great team. So nice to see a woman getting the recognition she deserves. I screenshotted it and sent it to Marina with a message. See? Other people get it. It's just Owen being insecure. Her response was immediate. You deserve someone who builds you up, not tears you down. Don't let him dim your shine. That night, Owen and I lay in bed like strangers. He was asleep, or pretending to be, within minutes, while I stared at the ceiling, replaying the conversation, trying to understand how celebrating my success had become grounds for marital conflict. My phone buzzed with a text from Damien. Great energy in the meeting today. Looking forward to working more closely on the investor campaign. You're going to be amazing. The message felt like a lifeline. Here was someone who believed in me, who saw my potential, who didn't try to make me feel guilty for being ambitious. I typed back, "Thank you for believing in me. It means more than you know." His response came quickly. Always. You deserve all the success coming your way. I fell asleep with the phone warm in my hand, feeling understood and appreciated in a way I hadn't felt at home in months. The rooftop party was Damien's idea. We need to celebrate the team, he announced during Monday's staff meeting. Last week's launch was just the beginning. We're going to dominate Q4, and everyone who made it possible deserves recognition. The venue was perfect, a trendy downtown space with city views and an open bar. I spent hours getting ready, choosing a red dress that made me feel powerful and confident. When I looked in the mirror, I saw success personified. Owen barely glanced up when I came downstairs. How do I look? I asked, doing a small turn in the hallway. Fine, he said, not looking away from his laptop. Just fine. You look nice, Legia. The lukewarm response stung, but I pushed it aside. Tonight was about celebrating with people who actually appreciated my contributions. The party was everything I'd hoped for. The entire leadership team was there, along with key investors and several clients. I found myself at the center of multiple conversations, discussing strategy, sharing insights, basking in the respect of successful people. Legia's the secret weapon, Damien told a group of potential investors. Her market analysis is what made the Q3 launch so successful. She's got instincts you can't teach. The validation was intoxicating. This was what I'd been missing at home. Recognition, appreciation, the acknowledgement that I was valuable and talented. Around 10 o'clock, Damien called for everyone's attention. The crowd gathered around the makeshift stage area, drinks in hand, faces flushed with success and possibility. "I want to take a moment to recognize someone special," Damien began, his eyes finding mine in the crowd. "3 months ago, our user acquisition was stagnant. Our market penetration was embarrassing. Our investor confidence was shaky." Murmurs of agreement from the crowd. But one person saw the potential that everyone else missed. One person had the vision and the courage to completely reimagine our approach. He extended his hand toward me. "Legia Vance, come up here." The applause was thunderous as I made my way to the front. This was it, the moment I'd been working toward, the recognition I deserved. "Ladies and gentlemen, the architect of our success." More applause. Someone whistled. I felt like I was glowing. "Speech," someone called out. I took the microphone, my heart racing with adrenaline and champagne courage. When I first pitched the integrated campaign strategy, some people said it was too aggressive, too risky. I paused for effect. "Well, look where aggressive got us." Cheers from the crowd. I was flying. Success isn't about playing it safe. It's about taking calculated risks, building strategic relationships, and never apologizing for your ambition. More applause. I caught sight of several colleagues filming with their phones, capturing this moment of triumph. To everyone who believed in the vision, who supported the strategy, who helped make this possible, thank you. And to everyone who doubted us. I raised my glass with a grin. "You're welcome for proving you wrong." The crowd erupted. This was what success felt like. Public recognition, professional validation, the respect of people who mattered. That's when Damien stepped closer, his hand finding my waist. "To the most brilliant marketing mind I've ever worked with," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. And then he kissed me. This wasn't like the brief, celebratory kiss from the office party. This was deliberate, lingering, unmistakably romantic. His hand tightened on my waist, pulling me closer, and for a moment I was too shocked to react. The crowd went wild. Whistles, cheers, someone shouting, "Get a room!" The energy was electric, infectious, and I found myself swept up in the moment. When we broke apart, I was breathless and flushed. The applause was deafening. "Now that's how you celebrate success," Damien announced to the crowd. I laughed, trying to play it off as spontaneous fun, but something in the back of my mind was screaming warning signals. This had crossed a line and everyone had seen it. That's when I noticed him. Owen stood at the edge of the crowd, near the elevator bank. He must have come up during my speech, must have witnessed the entire scene. His face was unreadable, but his posture, rigid, controlled, spoke volumes. Our eyes met across the crowd for one terrible moment. Then he turned and walked toward the elevators. "Owen!" I called out, but the music had started again, and my voice was lost in the noise. I tried to follow him, but colleagues kept stopping me, offering congratulations, asking for photos. By the time I made it to the elevators, he was gone. "Everything okay?" Damien appeared at my elbow, his hand still possessive on my back. "Fine," I lied, "just needed some air." But it wasn't fine. The high from the applause was already fading, replaced by a growing knot of anxiety in my stomach. I pulled out my phone and called Owen. It went straight to voicemail. "Owen, it's me. Can we talk? That wasn't... it was just celebration. Team spirit. Please call me back." 20 minutes later, I tried again. Still voicemail. I found myself in the bathroom, staring at my reflection in the harsh, fluorescent light. The confident, successful woman from the stage looked back at me, but now I could see the cracks in the facade. My phone buzzed with notifications. The party footage was already making its way onto social media. There I was, accepting applause, giving my speech, and then the kiss. Someone had posted it with the caption, "When your boss appreciates your work." Las goals. Ensure success. And ananas power couple. The comments were already pouring in. "You two are so cute together." "Relationship goals." "Lucky girl." Is that your husband? He's hot. I stared at the screen, watching the likes climb higher and higher. Hundreds of people celebrating what they saw as my success, my desirability, my worth. But all I could think about was Owen's face in that moment before he turned away. I rejoined the party, but the energy felt different now. Damien stayed close, his hand finding excuses to touch my arm, my back, my shoulder. Colleagues made knowing comments about office romance and mixing business with pleasure. It's not like that, I kept saying. We're just colleagues, just celebrating success. But even as I said it, I knew how it looked, how it had always looked. Around midnight, I finally escaped to the parking garage. The silence after hours of music and conversation was jarring. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, trying to figure out what to say, how to explain what had happened. When I got home, the house was dark. Owen's car was in the driveway, but there were no lights on, no sign of life. I found him in the living room, sitting in the dark, still wearing his jacket. "Owen, why are you sitting in the dark?" He didn't answer immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet and controlled. "How was the party?" It was good. Successful. Lots of networking opportunities. I'm sure." I sat down on the couch across from him, trying to read his expression in the dim light from the street lamps outside. "Owen, about what you saw." "What did I see, Legia?" The question caught me off guard. "You know what you saw. The kiss. But it wasn't what it looked like." "What did it look like?" "I don't know. Romantic, maybe. But it wasn't. It was just celebration. Team spirit. Damien gets carried away sometimes, but it doesn't mean anything." Owen was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was so soft I had to strain to hear him. "Do you know what I saw tonight?" I waited. I saw my wife being kissed by another man in front of a room full of people. I saw her kiss him back. I saw her smile and laugh and play to the crowd like it was all part of the show. "Owen, I saw a room full of strangers cheering for something that should have made them uncomfortable. I saw colleagues who know you're married treating it like entertainment. You're making it sound worse than it was." "Am I?" He stood up and I could see his silhouette against the window. "Because what I saw looked like a woman who's forgotten she has a husband." The words hit like a slap. "That's not fair." "Isn't it? When was the last time you kissed me like that? When was the last time you looked at me the way you look at him?" I opened my mouth to argue, but no words came, because somewhere, in the deepest part of my mind, I knew he was right. "It's not the same thing," I finally managed. "You and I, we're married. We're settled. What you saw tonight was just excitement, success, the thrill of achievement. And I can't give you that." "You don't understand the business world, Owen. You don't understand what it takes to succeed, to build relationships, to network effectively. Sometimes things look different than they are." He walked toward the stairs, then stopped and turned back. "You're right, Legia. I don't understand. I don't understand how my wife can kiss another man in public and call it networking. I don't understand how she can come home and explain it away, like I'm too stupid to know what I saw. Owen, please. I don't understand a lot of things anymore, but I'm learning." He went upstairs, leaving me alone in the dark living room, surrounded by the silence and the weight of my choices. The next few weeks passed in a strange, tense quiet. Owen didn't bring up the rooftop party again, didn't ask about work, didn't engage in the arguments I kept trying to start. Instead, he became methodical, almost mechanical in his daily routines. Every morning, he was up before dawn, making Eva's breakfast and lunch with precision that bordered on obsessive. Every evening, he helped with homework, read bedtime stories, and tucked our daughter in with the same careful attention to detail he brought to everything else. But with me, he was polite and distant, like a courteous stranger sharing our home. "Owen, we need to talk," I said one Thursday evening, finding him in his study again, surrounded by the same organized folders and documents. About what? About us. About this weird dynamic we've fallen into. About the fact that you barely speak to me anymore. He looked up from a stack of bank statements. I speak to you. We talked about Eva's parent-teacher conference yesterday. We discussed the grocery list this morning. That's not talking, that's logistics. What would you like to talk about? The question was so neutral, so devoid of emotion, that it actually hurt more than anger would have. I want to talk about why you're punishing me for being successful. Why you're making me feel guilty for having a career that matters to me. I'm not punishing you. Then what is this? This silent treatment, this emotional withdrawal, this way you look at me like I'm a stranger. Owen set down his papers and really looked at me for the first time in days. Legia, I'm not punishing you, I'm protecting myself. From what? From continuing to be hurt by someone who doesn't seem to care that she's hurting me. The words were delivered so calmly, so matter-of-factly, that they took a moment to sink in. I never meant to hurt you. I know, that's what makes it worse. I sat down in the chair across from his desk, trying to find some way to bridge the growing distance between us. Owen, I love you. You have to know that. You and Eva are the most important things in my life. Are we? Of course you are. Then why does it feel like we're competing with your career for your attention? Why does it feel like Damien knows more about your thoughts and feelings than I do? That's not true. When was the last time you told me about something that excited you at work before you told him? I opened my mouth to answer and realized I couldn't. When was the last time you asked me for advice about a professional decision? Again, silence. When was the last time you came home excited to see me instead of excited to tell me about something he said or did? Each question was like a small knife, cutting through the justifications I'd built up over the months. It's not a competition, Owen. You're my husband. He's my boss. Those are completely different relationships. You're right, they are different. But lately, it doesn't feel like you know the difference. I wanted to argue, to defend myself, to explain how he was misunderstanding everything. But sitting there in his organized study, looking at the careful way he'd separated and filed every aspect of our shared life, I felt a chill of recognition. What are all these papers, Owen? What are you organizing? Our finances, our assets, Eva's records, things that got messy over the years. Why now? He was quiet for a long moment. Because I want to understand exactly where we stand. What does that mean? It means I want to know what we own together, what we owe together, what our responsibilities are to each other and to Eva. Owen, you're scaring me. Are you thinking about leaving? I'm thinking about a lot of things. The admission hit me like a physical blow. Because of the party, because of one kiss that meant nothing. It's not about one kiss, Legia. It's about the fact that you don't see what's been happening. It's about the way you talk about him, the way you light up when he calls, the way you've started dressing for work, the way you stay late for meetings that could happen during business hours. Those are all professional. It's about the way you look at your phone and smile at messages you don't share with me. It's about the way you've started talking about our marriage like it's holding you back from something better. I never said that. You didn't have to. I felt tears starting to form, a mixture of frustration and fear, and something that might have been guilt. Owen, I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose us. Then stop acting like you already have. The next day at work, I found myself distracted, replaying the conversation, trying to see our marriage through Owen's eyes. When Damien knocked on my office door around lunchtime, I felt a familiar flutter of excitement, followed immediately by a stab of guilt. Lunch meeting with the Peterson group got moved to next week, he said, settling into the chair across from my desk. Want to grab something to eat? We could discuss the Q4 strategy. 6 months ago, I would have said yes without hesitation. Now, I found myself thinking about Owen's questions, about the pattern of choosing Damien's company over my husband's. I should probably eat at my desk, I said. Catch up on some reports. Come on, Legia. All work and no play makes for boring marketing executives. He grinned, and I felt that familiar charm working on me. Besides, I wanted to talk to you about the VP position, privately. The mention of the promotion sent a jolt of excitement through me. This was what I'd been working toward, what all the late nights and strategic relationships had been building up to. The VP position? It's not official yet, but the board is impressed with your results. Your leadership during the launch, your presentation skills, your ability to build client relationships. He paused meaningfully. Your dedication to the company. What would that mean exactly, in terms of responsibilities? More autonomy, bigger budget, direct reports, and travel, lots of travel, client meetings, conference presentations, industry networking events. Travel? Is that a problem? I thought about Eva's bedtime stories, about Owen's quiet support, about the family dinners I'd already been missing. No, not a problem. Just, I'd need to discuss it with my family. Of course, but Legia, opportunities like this don't come along often. The board wants someone who's all in, someone who can represent the company at the highest levels. I understand. Good. Think about it over the weekend. We'll talk more next week. After he left, I sat staring at my computer screen, trying to process what had just happened. The promotion I'd been dreaming of was within reach, but Owen's words kept echoing in my mind. That evening, I came home to find Eva in the living room, working on a school project. Her assignment was to draw her family, and I watched as she carefully colored in 3 figures: herself, Owen, and me. "That's beautiful, sweetheart," I said, sitting down beside her. "Daddy helped me with the proportions," she said proudly. "He said artists have to pay attention to how things really look, not just how they want them to look." Something about the comment made me study the drawing more carefully. Eva had drawn Owen large and detailed, with a smile and outstretched arms. She'd drawn herself in the middle, holding both parents' hands, but the figure representing me was smaller, less detailed, and positioned slightly apart from the other two. "Why am I standing over there?" I asked. Eva shrugged. "That's where you usually are." The innocent observation hit harder than any of Owen's careful accusations. "What do you mean?" "You're usually doing work stuff, on your phone or your computer. Daddy said I shouldn't bother you when you're being important." I felt something crack inside my chest. "Eva, you never bother me. You're the most important thing in the world to me." She looked up from her coloring with 6-year-old directness. "More important than your work?" The question hung in the air, demanding an answer I wasn't sure I could give honestly. "Of course you are." But even as I said it, I was thinking about the VP position, about the travel and the autonomy and the recognition that came with success. That night, I found Owen in the kitchen, making his evening tea. For the first time in weeks, he'd set out 2 mugs. "Owen?" "Damien offered me a promotion today. VP of Marketing." He paused in his tea preparation. "Congratulations. It would mean more travel, more responsibility, more time away from home." "Is that what you want?" "I don't know. I think so. Maybe." I sat down at the kitchen table, suddenly exhausted. "Owen, am I a bad mother?" The question seemed to surprise him. "What? No, you're not a bad mother. Eva drew a picture today, of our family. She drew me standing apart from you and her." Owen sat down across from me, sliding one of the mugs in my direction. "Kids draw what they see. That's what I'm afraid of." We sat in silence for a moment, the first comfortable silence we'd shared in weeks. "Owen, I don't know how to want less," I finally said. "I don't know how to be satisfied with smaller dreams, with staying in my lane, with being grateful for whatever scraps of success I can get without threatening anyone." "I never asked you to want less." "Then what are you asking for?" He looked at me across the table, and for the first time in weeks, I saw my husband instead of a stranger. "I'm asking you to want us too." The investor dinner was scheduled for Friday night at the Grand Marquis Hotel, the kind of event that could make or break careers. I'd spent weeks preparing, coordinating with vendors, reviewing client profiles, rehearsing presentations until I could deliver them in my sleep. This was it, the culmination of everything I'd been working toward. "Big night tonight," Damien said, appearing in my office doorway Thursday afternoon. "You ready to knock their socks off?" "As ready as I'll ever be." "Good, because there are going to be some very important people in that room, the kind of people who could open doors you didn't even know existed." I felt the familiar flutter of excitement mixed with anxiety. No pressure, right? The right kind of pressure, the kind that separates the players from the pretenders. He stepped into my office and closed the door behind him. "Legia, I want you to know how much I appreciate everything you've brought to this company. Your vision, your dedication, your willingness to go above and beyond. Thank you. That means a lot. I hope it means enough." He moved closer, and I caught a hint of his cologne, expensive, sophisticated, nothing like the simple soap Owen used. "Because after tomorrow night, everything changes. The VP position, the expanded responsibilities, the travel, it's all going to require a different level of commitment." "I understand." "Do you? Because once you're in leadership, once you're representing the company at this level, there's no going back to being just another employee. You become part of the brand, part of the image we project to the world." Something in his tone made me look up from my computer. "What exactly are you saying?" "I'm saying that success at this level requires sacrifices. It requires choosing what matters most and committing fully to that choice." "And you think I haven't committed?" "I think you're still trying to have it both ways. Still trying to be the ambitious executive and the suburban wife and mother. Still trying to please everyone instead of focusing on what will actually advance your career." The words stung because they echoed thoughts I'd been having for weeks. My family is important to me. Of course they are. But Legia, you have a gift. You have something special that could take you to the very top of this industry. Don't waste it trying to live someone else's version of your life. After he left, I sat staring at my computer screen, trying to process what felt like an ultimatum disguised as encouragement. That evening, I came home to find Owen in his study again, but this time, the organized folders were gone. Instead, his desk was clean except for a single manila envelope and his laptop. "How was work?" he asked, not looking up from his screen. "Good, busy. Tomorrow's the big investor dinner." "Right, the one you've been preparing for." "Owen, are we okay?" He finally looked at me, and I saw something different in his expression, not the hurt or disappointment I'd grown accustomed to, but a kind of calm resolution. "We're fine, Legia." "You seem different." "Do I?" "More relaxed, maybe, less tense." "I've been doing some thinking, some planning. It's helped clarify things." "What kind of planning?" "Just getting my affairs in order, making sure everything's documented and organized." There was something in his tone that made me uneasy, but I couldn't put my finger on what it was. "Owen, you're not planning to do anything drastic, are you?" He smiled, and it was the first genuine smile I'd seen from him in weeks. "Define drastic." "I don't know. Leave. File for separation. Something dramatic and unnecessary." Would it be unnecessary? The question caught me off guard. Of course it would be. "Owen, we can work through this. Whatever problems we're having, we can fix them." "Can we?" "Yes. I mean, I know things have been tense lately, but that's just because of work stress and miscommunication. Once this investor dinner is over, once things settle down, we can focus on us again." "And then what?" "Until the next big project, the next promotion opportunity, the next crisis that requires your complete attention." "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" He closed his laptop and gave me his full attention. "Legia, when was the last time you chose me over your career?" "I choose you every day. I come home to you every night." "You come home to the house we share. That's not the same thing." I wanted to argue, but something in his calm certainty made the words stick in my throat. What do you want from me, Owen? I want you to be happy. I am happy. Are you? Because you seem like someone who's constantly chasing the next achievement, the next level of recognition, the next person who can validate your worth. That's not true. When was the last time you were satisfied? When was the last time you felt like you had enough? Enough success, enough recognition, enough approval? I opened my mouth to answer and realized I couldn't. That's what I thought. He stood up and headed toward the door, then paused. Legia, I hope tomorrow night goes well for you. I hope you get everything you're looking for. You're not coming, are you? You didn't ask me to come. I assumed you wouldn't want to. After everything that's happened. You assumed correctly. After he left, I sat in his study, trying to understand the shift in his demeanor. The hurt and anger I'd grown accustomed to had been replaced by something that felt almost like acceptance. It should have been a relief, but instead it filled me with a vague sense of dread. Friday morning, Owen was up before dawn again, but this time he was wearing his best suit. The charcoal grey one he usually reserved for parent-teacher conferences and Eva's school events. You look nice, I said, pouring coffee. Special occasion? Just felt like dressing up. For school. Among other things. There was something almost ceremonial about the way he moved through his morning routine, extra care with his shaving, cologne I rarely saw him wear, cufflinks that had been a wedding gift from my father. Owen, what's going on? Nothing's going on. Can't a man dress well for work? But something was definitely different. There was an energy about him, a sense of purpose that I hadn't seen in months. At work, the pre-dinner preparations consumed my entire day. Catering coordination, venue setup, final client briefings, wardrobe decisions. By 5 o'clock, I was running on pure adrenaline and caffeine. You clean up nice, Damien said when I arrived at the hotel. I'd chosen a black cocktail dress that struck the perfect balance between professional and elegant, paired with the diamond earrings Owen had given me for our 5th anniversary. Thank you, everything looks perfect. And it did. The ballroom was elegantly appointed, the catering was flawless, and the guest list read like a who's who of industry leaders and potential investors. Legia, I want to introduce you to some people, Damien said, guiding me toward a group of well-dressed executives near the bar. For the next 2 hours, I was in my element, networking, presenting, building relationships with people who could change the trajectory of my career. This was what I was good at, what I'd been born to do. Impressive woman, I overheard one investor say to another. Sharp, articulate, knows her market inside and out. The validation was intoxicating. This was success. This was recognition. This was proof that all the sacrifices had been worth it. I was in the middle of a conversation about market expansion strategies when I noticed the commotion near the entrance. A hotel employee, in a crisp uniform, was scanning the crowd, holding what looked like an official envelope. Excuse me, he said, approaching our group. I'm looking for Legia Vance. That's me. I have a delivery for you, ma'am. Requires your signature. I felt a flutter of confusion. A delivery? Here? Yes, ma'am. Legal documents. The words hit me like a physical blow. Legal documents. At the investor dinner. In front of everyone. I signed for the envelope with trembling hands, acutely aware that conversations around us had stopped, that people were watching, that whatever was in this envelope was about to become very public. I opened it with as much composure as I could muster, but the words on the first page made my knees weak. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The papers slipped from my hands, scattering across the polished floor of the hotel ballroom. In the sudden silence, I could hear my own heartbeat, could feel the weight of dozens of eyes watching my world collapse in real time. Legia? Damien's voice seemed to come from very far away. What is it? I couldn't answer. I couldn't breathe. I knelt down and gathered the papers with shaking hands, trying to process what I was seeing: divorce papers, custody arrangements, financial disclosures, evidence attachments with dates and times and screenshots of social media posts. Everything. He documented everything. I need to. I stood up, clutching the papers to my chest. I need to go. I pushed through the crowd of concerned faces and confused whispers, making it to the lobby before the tears started. My phone was already buzzing with notifications. Someone had filmed the entire scene, and it was already making its way onto social media. Owen was waiting in the lobby, still wearing his good suit, still calm and composed. "Hello, Legia." "Owen, what the hell is this?" "It's exactly what it looks like. You served me divorce papers at my work event, in front of investors and clients and colleagues." "Yes." "How could you do this to me? How could you humiliate me like this?" He looked at me with that same calm assessment I'd grown to hate, and when he spoke, his voice was quiet but clear. "You warned me every day, Legia. Every time you chose him over me, every time you dismissed my concerns, every time you made me feel like I was crazy for seeing what was right in front of me. You warned me that I wasn't enough for you, that our marriage wasn't enough for you, that I was holding you back from the life you really wanted. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. And you were right. I'm not enough for the person you've become. Our marriage isn't enough for someone who needs constant validation from strangers. I was holding you back from the life you really want. Owen, please. So I'm setting you free. You can have the career, the recognition, the relationship with your boss, all of it, without having to pretend you still want to be married to a small-town teacher who doesn't understand your ambition." I stared at him, seeing clearly for the first time in months. This wasn't the hurt, withdrawn man I'd been living with. This was someone who had made a decision and was following through with methodical precision. "The custody schedule is fair," he continued. "Eva will spend weekdays with me during the school year. Weekends and holidays will split. You'll have plenty of time for travel and career advancement. You can't take my daughter away from me. I'm not taking her away. I'm providing stability while you figure out what you really want." "I want my family." "No, Legia. You want the idea of family when it's convenient for you. You want the security of knowing we're here when your career isn't giving you enough validation. But you don't want the daily reality of putting someone else's needs before your own ambitions." The words cut deep because they contained just enough truth to hurt. "Owen, we can work this out. We can go to counseling. We're past that. I tried to talk to you, tried to explain how your behavior was affecting our marriage. You made it clear that I was the problem, that I was jealous and insecure and threatened by your success. I was wrong. I was defensive and scared, and you were honest. Maybe for the first time in months, you were completely honest about how you see me, how you see our marriage, how you see your priorities." I looked around the hotel lobby, suddenly aware that we were drawing attention again. Hotel guests and staff were pretending not to stare, but I could feel their curiosity like a physical weight. "Can we please discuss this privately?" "There's nothing left to discuss. The papers explain everything: property division, custody arrangements, support obligations. My lawyer will contact your lawyer to work out the details." "Your lawyer? Did you think I was going to represent myself in a divorce?" The word hit me like a slap. Divorce. Final, public, permanent. "Owen, I love you. I know you do, in your way. But love isn't enough when it's not backed up by choices, and you've been making your choices very clear." He turned to leave, then paused. "For what it's worth, Legia, I hope you get everything you want. I hope the promotion and the recognition and the relationship with Damien make you happy. I hope it's all worth it." And then he was gone, leaving me alone in the hotel lobby with divorce papers in my hands and the ruins of my carefully constructed life scattered around my feet. I stood there for a long time, trying to process what had just happened. Upstairs, the investor dinner was continuing without me. My colleagues were probably wondering where I'd gone, making excuses for my absence, trying to salvage the evening I'd worked so hard to perfect. My phone buzzed with a text from Damien. "Where are you? The Peterson group is asking for you." I stared at the message, then at the divorce papers, then at my reflection in the lobby's mirrored wall. This was what I'd chosen. This was what I'd worked for. So why did it feel like I'd lost everything that actually mattered? The video went viral within hours. I woke up Saturday morning to hundreds of notifications, tags, comments, shares, and direct messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Someone had filmed the entire scene at the investor dinner, from the moment the courier approached me to my stumbling exit from the ballroom. The caption read, "When your personal life crashes your professional moment, it's awkward, nar divorce tar karma." I watched myself receive the papers, saw my face crumble as I read the first page, witnessed my desperate attempt to maintain composure as my world fell apart in real time. The comments were brutal. "This is why you don't mess around on your spouse. Play with fire, get burned. That's what happens when you choose your boss over your husband." She had it coming. But mixed in with the schadenfreude were comments that cut even deeper. "I feel bad for their kid. That poor teacher husband seemed like such a nice guy. She threw away a good man for her career." I deleted the apps from my phone, but the damage was done. The story had taken on a life of its own, spreading through professional networks and social circles like wildfire. My mother called around noon. "Legia, honey, what's happening? Your aunt sent me some video." "Mom, I can't talk about this right now." "Sweetheart, come home. Come stay with your father and me for a few days while you figure this out." "I can't leave. I have work. I have responsibilities." "You have a daughter who needs her mother." The words hit harder than any social media comment. "Where is Eva?" "She's with Owen. He picked her up this morning for what he called a daddy-daughter weekend. She seemed excited about it. My daughter was excited to spend time away from me. The realization was devastating. "Mum, I don't know how this got so out of control." "Oh, honey, these things don't happen overnight. They build up slowly, one small choice at a time, until suddenly you're somewhere you never meant to be." "I love Owen. I love Eva. I never wanted this." "I know you do. But love isn't just a feeling, sweetheart. It's a series of actions, of choices, of priorities. And sometimes we get so focused on what we think we want that we lose sight of what we actually need." After we hung up, I sat in my empty house, surrounded by the silence that had become so familiar over the past few months. But now it felt different, not tense with unspoken conflict, but hollow with actual absence. I walked through the rooms Owen and I had shared for 6 years, seeing them through new eyes. His coffee mug was gone from the kitchen sink. His books were missing from the nightstand. The family photos were still there, but they felt like artifacts from someone else's life. In Eva's room, I found a note on her pillow in Owen's careful handwriting. "Daddy and I are going to the Science Museum and then for ice cream. I'll call you tonight before bed. I love you, Mummy. Eva, Daddy helped me spell everything." I held the note and cried for the first time since the hotel lobby. Monday morning brought a new reality. The office buzzed with whispered conversations that stopped when I walked by. Colleagues who had been friendly and collaborative suddenly found reasons to avoid eye contact. The story had spread through our professional network, and I was now the cautionary tale everyone would reference in hushed tones. "Legia." Priya from HR appeared at my office door. "Can we talk?" Her expression was carefully neutral, but I could read the subtext. This wasn't a friendly check-in. "Of course." She closed the door and sat down across from my desk. "How are you holding up?" "I'm fine, ready to get back to work and move forward." "That's good to hear, because we need to discuss some concerns that have been raised." My stomach dropped. "What kind of concerns?" "The video from Friday night has raised questions about your judgment, about your ability to maintain appropriate boundaries, about your fitness to represent the company at high-level events." Priya, my personal life has nothing to do with my professional performance. Doesn't it? Because the video shows you receiving divorce papers at a company event, in front of investors and clients. It shows you losing composure in a very public, very professional setting. That wasn't my fault. I had no idea Owen was going to... Legia, this isn't about fault. This is about perception and reputation. The company has spent years building relationships with these clients, and now they're asking questions about our internal culture, about whether we maintain appropriate professional standards. I felt the walls closing in. What are you saying? I'm saying that the VP position is no longer on the table. I'm saying that you're going to need to take some time to get your personal affairs in order. I'm saying that effective immediately, you're on administrative leave. You're suspending me. I'm giving you time to deal with your divorce, to focus on your family situation, to let this media attention die down. For how long? That depends on a lot of factors. How quickly this story fades, how the clients respond, how you handle yourself going forward. After Priya left, I sat in my office, my former office, trying to process what had just happened. The career I'd sacrificed my marriage for was crumbling around me. The recognition I'd craved had turned into public humiliation. The success I'd chased had led to professional exile. Damien appeared in my doorway, but his usual confident swagger was replaced by obvious discomfort. Legia, I'm sorry about all this. Are you? Because you haven't exactly been supportive since Friday night. What did you expect me to do? Make a scene? 'Cause more drama? I expected you to have my back. I expected you to remember that I've been instrumental in this company's success, that I've worked my ass off for months to build these client relationships. And you have. But Legia, you have to understand the position this puts me in. I'm the CEO. I can't be seen as playing favorites, especially not now. Playing favorites? Is that what you call our working relationship? He shifted uncomfortably. Our working relationship has always been professional. Professional? What about the kisses? What about the late-night dinners and the constant texting and the way you encouraged me to prioritize work over my marriage? I never encouraged you to do anything. You made your own choices. I stared at him, seeing clearly for the first time. This man I'd risked everything for, this relationship I'd prioritized over my husband, was evaporating the moment it became inconvenient for him. You're abandoning me. I'm protecting the company. And honestly, Legia, you should have seen this coming. You're a smart woman. You had to know that mixing personal and professional like this would eventually blow up. So this is my fault. This is nobody's fault. It's just an unfortunate situation that we all need to handle professionally. After he left, I packed my personal belongings into a cardboard box, photos of Eva, a coffee mug Owen had given me, awards and certificates that suddenly felt meaningless. The office that had been my sanctuary, my source of validation and purpose, now felt like a crime scene. I drove home in the middle of the afternoon, something I hadn't done in years. The house was still empty, still echoing with absence. I called Owen's phone, but it went to voicemail. Owen, it's me. I know you probably don't want to talk, but I need to see Eva. I need to explain. I don't know what I need to explain, but I need to try. Please call me back. He didn't. That evening, Eva called as promised. Hi, Mummy. Hi, sweetheart. How was the museum? It was amazing. They had dinosaurs and space stuff, and Daddy let me touch a real meteorite. That sounds wonderful. Mommy, are you and Daddy getting divorced? The question hit me like a physical blow. Sweetheart, that's complicated. Daddy and I are having some problems, but that doesn't change how much we both love you. My friend Sarah's parents got divorced, and now she has 2 houses and 2 bedrooms and 2 sets of toys. How does Sarah feel about that? She says it's okay, but sometimes she forgets which house her favorite stuffed animal is at, and that makes her sad. I closed my eyes, imagining my daughter shuttling between homes, dividing her life between parents who couldn't figure out how to love each other properly. Eva, no matter what happens between Daddy and me, you'll always be the most important thing in both our lives. I know, Mommy. Daddy told me the same thing. Good. That's good. Mommy, why did you kiss your boss? The question came out of nowhere, delivered with 6-year-old directness that cut straight to the heart of everything. Where did you hear about that? Some kids at school saw a video. They said you were on the internet. My daughter had seen the video. My 6-year-old daughter had been exposed to the public humiliation of her mother's poor choices through elementary school gossip. Ava, that was a mistake, a big mistake. Sometimes grown-ups do things they shouldn't do, and then they have to deal with the consequences. Like when I hit Tommy Peterson and had to go to the principal's office. Something like that, yes. Did you have to go to the principal's office too? In a way, I had. Yes, sweetheart, I did. Are you in big trouble? I thought about the divorce papers, the lost promotion, the administrative leave, the viral video, the empty house. Yes, Eva, I'm in very big trouble. It's okay, Mommy. When I was in trouble, you and Daddy still loved me. I still love you too. After we hung up, I sat in my dark living room, thinking about choices and consequences, about the difference between what I'd wanted and what I'd needed, about the price of chasing validation from people who didn't really know me. Owen had been methodical in his revenge, but it wasn't cruel. It was simply the truth, served publicly and legally. He'd documented everything, prepared carefully, and struck when the impact would be greatest. But looking at the divorce papers spread across my coffee table, I realized it wasn't really revenge at all. It was self-preservation. It was a man protecting himself and his daughter from a woman who had forgotten what actually mattered. I'd told him he was jealous for no reason. I'd convinced myself that his concerns were insecurity, that his withdrawal was weakness, that his quiet planning was sulking. I'd been wrong about everything. He wasn't jealous. He was heartbroken. He wasn't insecure. He was realistic. He wasn't weak. He was strong enough to walk away from someone who had stopped choosing him. And now, sitting alone in the house we'd shared, surrounded by the wreckage of the life I'd thrown away for applause from strangers, I finally understood what I'd lost. I'd had a man who loved me unconditionally, who supported my dreams, who built a stable home for our daughter, while I chased recognition from people who would abandon me the moment I became inconvenient. I'd had a marriage built on genuine partnership, mutual respect, and shared values. I'd had a family, and I'd traded it all for the temporary high of professional validation and the hollow promise of success that meant nothing when I had no one left to share it with. The irony was devastating. I'd accused Owen of holding me back, of being threatened by my ambition, of not understanding what it took to succeed. But he'd understood perfectly. He'd seen exactly where my choices were leading, and he'd tried to warn me. When I wouldn't listen, when I kept choosing everything else over him, he'd done the only thing left to do. He'd chosen himself, and Eva, and a future free from someone who had forgotten how to choose love over applause. I picked up my phone and started typing a text to Owen, then deleted it. Started again, deleted again. There was nothing I could say that would undo the months of small betrayals, the public humiliations, the gradual erosion of trust and respect. He'd given me exactly what I'd been asking for all along. Freedom from a marriage I'd treated as an obstacle to my success. The house was quiet now, but it wasn't the tense silence of unspoken conflict. It was the empty silence of actual loss. And for the first time in months, I had no one to blame but myself.